24. The people came up out of the Jordan on the 10th day of the first month, and they camped in Gilgal on the east border of Jericho. Those 12 stones which they had taken out of the Jordan, Joshua set up in Gilgal, saying to the Israelites, "When your children ask their parents in time to come, 'What do these stones mean?' then you shall let your children know, Israel crossed over the Jordan here on dry ground. For the Lord your God dried up the waters of the Jordan for you until you crossed over, as the Lord your God did to the Red Sea, which he dried up for us until we crossed over, so that all the peoples of the earth may know that the hand of the Lord is mighty, and so that you may fear the Lord your God forever." May God add blessing to the reading, hearing, and living of this holy word this day.
Thanks be to God.
We humans love to celebrate things. We celebrate birthdays and weddings and holidays of all sorts. We celebrate the changing of the seasons. We celebrate historical events. We celebrate anniversaries, and we have lots of different ways we celebrate too. We might have a party or take a trip, or give gifts, build monuments, plant trees, buy special clothing, eat special food, and all sorts of other things we do on special occasions. Some of our celebrations we do just last a little time. Some celebrations might last for days or weeks or months, or maybe they even last for a year. We like to celebrate the things that are important to us. Our scripture lesson this morning is about a bit of a celebration. So let me remind you what has happened to bring them to this point in the story. See, the Israelites have been wandering in the desert for 40 years. Have you ever wandered anywhere for 40 years? It's a long time. And they were tired of picking up and moving all the time, I'm sure. And I think they were probably ready to eat some real food. No matter how much different you cooked or fixed manna, I'm thinking it probably pretty much tastes the same. And I think they might have been ready for some permanent housing, a place that they could settle, plant some crops, and enjoy just being in one place. Well, they finally reached the promised land. You might remember Moses is the one that started them on their journey, led them out of captivity in Egypt. He has recently died, and now Joshua is their spiritual leader. And they've come to the Jordan River, which at this particular time of year is running high, maybe even overflowing its banks. And so Joshua, before this part of the story that you heard, has made arrangements for the Ark of the Covenant. And if you don't know what that is, that's kind of a, I don't know, I look at it like a big trunk or box that has all of their holy things in it. The Ark of the Covenant, that's where all the holy stuff is. And it's been carried along with them everywhere they go. And Joshua has made arrangements for it to get across this flooded river. And so what has happened is that when they got to the river, Joshua told them, when the priests, when you step your foot into the waters will recede, and you will have a place, dry land, to walk on. And you'll be able to carry the Ark of the Covenant safely across the Jordan River. And that's exactly what happened. And to commemorate that great moment, to celebrate that great moment when they were able to get past this rushing water in safety, and that all of the things that were special and precious and holy to them were saved, Joshua tells them to take some of those rocks, in fact 12 rocks, one for each of the tribes of Israel, to take the rocks that they've gathered from the Jordan River and to place their rocks at the crossing place of the river. They're to make a pillar of stones. He tells them so that later anyone who sees those stones will know what they're about, and the story will be retold. This isn't the only place that these 12 stones are set up. There's another place where they've been set also, and you can go and see these stones yet today, stacked there, marking the place, celebrating God's presence with the children of Israel as they came across into the promised land. They wanted to make sure that this story was never forgotten. They wanted their story to be remembered for generations to come. It was an important part of their history. The question I want us to think about today is, what are we leaving behind? How will we be remembered? And I'm not saying this because I think we're going anywhere soon, but if we think about our heritage and what we've done in the last 60 years, how will we be remembered if this was our last day here at Christ Church? What will people see? What will we have left behind? What will tell them about who we were, who we are? Everywhere we go, we leave a little piece of us behind. Human beings shed almost 2 pounds of skin a year. That's a whole lot of dust, folks. And I did some calculations, and I can't even begin to tell you the number, but if there's billions of people on the earth, you know that, right? Every person shedding 2 pounds of skin a year, you know how many billions of pounds of dust that is? And bits and pieces of who we are exhaled every time we breathe. I know that may freak some of you germ people out, but we are a part of each other whether we like it or not. Because some of your dust is going to get on me today. Some of your breath is going to be breathed by me today. So each of us are a part of each other. We leave a bit of ourselves behind every place that we go. Before I got into ministry, I had lots of jobs. And one of the things that I did for a couple of years is I moved to Colorado. I was a food and beverage manager at a ski resort in Colorado. And on my days off, the friends and I that were there, we would take day trips around Colorado to see the historic places. You know, there's a lot of abandoned mines up there and a lot of abandoned towns that you can see. And so we would just go, you couldn't call us prospectors, but we did look for stuff. And one of the things that we looked for, if we could find an old ghost town to visit, was we always looked for the garbage area, the dump. Because you can tell a lot about people by what they throw away. And we found some of the coolest things. Really, we did. Old, ancient glass bottles, you know, the kind that turned purple because they'd been in the sun so much. And old tin cans with you could still almost read the name of what had been in there, what food they had eaten. And a couple of times we went into old mine entrances and into some homes, and the walls were papered with old newspapers that you could still read the dates on. Like from the late 1800s and early 1900s, it was a miracle that they were still there. We love to go and see what people left behind and try to imagine how their life might have been. And another place that we would go often was to the cemetery, because every little community often had its own place to put people who had passed away and to look at the dates and to see how long they had lived. And it was always kind of tragic that there were a lot of children whose names were there who hadn't lived very long, and we tried to imagine what kind of disease or what had happened to that community in those times. It was always great to see if we could figure out what that community was like. So in a few hundred years, or even 60 more years, when others come to look at our world, at our place, what do you think that they will discover about us? What will they find in our garbage dumps? What will they discover about who we were and what we valued and how we treated our possessions? I'm afraid there's going to be a lot of stuff. I just think of all those electronics and Well, in my own life, I've had a lot of toaster ovens and cars, TVs. Just think of all the things that they're going to discover about us and wonder what kind of people we were. Christ Church has been here for 60 years. Some of you are a lot older than that. Some of you not that old. And maybe it's hard to imagine what 60 years is like. And some of you that are here today have been with this church since it began. Others of you, came a few years later, and you've been here a really long time too. Some of you are newer to the church. And there's a few of you that have only been here just a short while, maybe even less than a year. So I'm going to invite you that are new to find someone who's been here a while and talk to them about the history of Christ Church. 10 years ago, the church celebrated its 50th anniversary, and they put together one of these booklets that has all the information you could possibly want to know about Christ Church. Well, most all, I would guess. All the important stuff is here. And so if you're interested in the history of Christ Church that you weren't a part of, you can look at this and you can see some of the things that have happened to get to where we are at this place at this moment in time right now. And you're going to hear some great stories. And there's some photos that you can look at, and there's a bunch of photos down on the table in the fellowship hall you're going to be able to look at today while you have lunch. Great old photos of the church and some of its members. Because a lot of stuff has happened in the last 60 years. People have come and gone. There's been thousands and thousands of people who have come and gone from the church. And as I said in the prayer, there's been marriages and baptisms, and there's been some deaths too. So there's a lot of memories here in the last 60 years. And that's why we're celebrating today. And the thing that we need to celebrate most about the 60 years that Christ Church has been here is the ministry and mission of what has happened here. There's lots of things that we could talk about, and the list goes on and on. But just to name a few of the things that are happening, there's the food pantry and the clothing boutique. There's meals served at Primavera. There's the asylum ministry. There's the Inn Project. There's the Angel Tree, and the list goes on and on of the ministries that happen here at Christ Church that make a difference in the community and in the world. So anniversaries mark special occasions. And we celebrate and give thanks for the 60 years of Christ Church today. Because one of the things that celebrations does for us is that it also gives us a chance to look for the future and to hope that there'll be many more years to come. And I think that in the history of churches, I would hope that the first 60 years is just the beginning of the lifespan of Christ Church. Because really, in church years, 60 years is pretty young. One of the churches I served up in Globe was having a 130-year anniversary. So Christ Church, you've got a ways to go. We still have work to do. We still have things to do that we will be remembered for. We still have work to do to be the agents of change that we've been called to be. We still have work to do to be transformers of the world for good. We still have work to do. And so we can celebrate today, but we don't get to rest, because tomorrow the work continues. The work of all of us to make sure that Christ Church leaves good things behind to be remembered for. So what will the next 60 years for Christ Church look like? I don't have a clue. But I want to stick around for a while to see, and I hope that you will too, because we have great things to do in the years to come here at Christ Church. And I hope you'll stick around and find out.